Your time starts now.
Okay, so this is just so you get an idea. You know, you're in the Louvre and you see that something happened in year 300 or something. You'll have an idea of what's going on. And I'm going to use the space between these posts to represent 500-year time span. Okay. So this will be year 0, leading up to year 500 to 1000 to 1500. Is that clear?
Got it.
Okay. And we're going to save the last 500 years for later on in the tour because it's the tastiest part of it. So this is year 0 when Christ was born, right? Now remember, before this we had the Celtic Breezes. They were fishing, building forts, that sort of thing. But by year 0, you'd already had Paris' most famous tourists in the form of Julius Caesar of Rome. But he didn't just bring his suitcases, he brought his whole Roman army. He fished his battles with the Parisians, finally conquered and settled in. And started turning this into a full-fledged city, some serious redecorating with arenas and gladiators, Roman baths, many of which you can still see on the left bank today. But by year 500, the Roman Empire had already crumbled. And this marks the beginning of the early Middle Ages or the Dark Ages. And here you had a Germanic tribe called the Franks that took over. And they liked Paris so much, like many others, they decided to make it the capital of their Frankish Empire. They just converted from their tribal religions to Christianity, Catholicism, so they're building a lot of churches and monasteries. By now, the city's name has changed from Lutèce, like we saw on the roadside earlier, to Paris, and the wider country's name has changed from Gaul to Francia, the land of the Franks, or France, for short. Yeah. The most famous figure among these Franks was Charlemagne, around the 800s, often considered the father of Europe for having picked up the crumbled pieces of the Roman Empire. But another thing Charlemagne did, though, is he moved his capital from out of Paris to Aachen, which is in modern-day Germany, thus starting a long-distance ruling relationship with Paris. And sadly for him, this arrangement did not last, so that by year 1000, the Franks had lost power. Now, by 1000, something very interesting had happened culturally, because you had the mix of Celtic culture, their language and traditions, blended in with Roman culture, their Latin language and traditions, mixed in with the Germanic, Frankish culture, language and traditions, and voila! You had the beginnings of French culture and French language, which is actually a newer hybrid of these older cultures. Also, by now, they elected a local man named Hugues Capet to rule, and he would become the ancestor of all kings in France until the end of kings in France. Now, 1000 to 1500, that's the part of the Middle Ages many of us have in our imaginations. You know, the knights in shining armor going off to the Crusades in the Holy Lands, the building of Notre Dame, Saint Louis building his Sainte-Chapelle, the 100 Years' War with England and Joan of Arc. Now, 1500 roughly marks the end of the Middle Ages here, and we'll pause here to get your timing.
2 minutes, 40 seconds.
Oh, even better. And as we walk into the Middle Ages.
Okay.
But now use your imagination, know that there's no pavement, there's raw sewage flowing down, people throwing waste at you from the windows, rats, and a smell you wouldn't believe. No, we'll really be in the Middle Ages. So now I'm going to say 3 minutes instead of 4.
Well, there isn't much sidewalk here either.
Yeah, there isn't.